I went to a different chiropractor who was filling in for mine, and she did a movement in my mid back. It was really painful, and I've never had pain going to a chiropractor. And I said, "Oh," and she said, "Oh, did that hurt?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, okay. Just see how you go for a few days. It should come good." It didn't come good. I went to the chiropractor in mid-April in 2023, and I wasn't diagnosed until the 30th of December 2023, so it was about 8 months. The day before New Year's Eve, they phoned me and said, "Unfortunately, it's not what we were hoping. It's metastatic melanoma, which has spread to your bones." So they told me it was stage 4, incurable. But obviously I was in shock. I had 2 young children. My son was 5, my daughter was 7. Back then, I used to go to the chiropractor probably twice a year. I was a cake decorator, cookie decorator, so I was working a lot of physical sort of movements. And I'd just go there to get adjusted and I'd feel great for 6 months. I waited till my other chiropractor was back. I went to see him. He said, "I think she did something a bit too aggressive. Let's just, work on it gently." Weeks went by, it didn't get better. I ended up going to a GP. It wasn't my regular GP because she'd moved on. He went through all the questions about family history of things. He checked me on the bed. As it was only, say, 4 weeks after the chiropractor appointment, he said, "Let's wait. If it's not better by 12 weeks, we'll investigate further." 12 weeks roll around, it still wasn't better. I was going to the chiropractor still. He sent me for a scan and it showed up as a slipped disc. So we were just sort of working on that. I was using a roller, trying to help, with muscle tension. Now that I look back, I think I was probably causing a lot more damage because I was rolling on that spot. Then my hip was sore. He sent me for a ultrasound. That showed up as bursitis. So, just trying to heal from these things. I was going to the gym with working with a PT, trying to strengthen my muscles. I was seeing a physio. Nothing really worked. And everyone was at a loss. It was just constant. So it was there all the time and it was kind of a burning pain and it would spread out across my back, but it would change from day to day, the location of the pain. So I actually started thinking I had fibromyalgia because I'd been reading a book about different diseases. So I ended up doing a 28-day raw food cleanse, which I'd read in this book, and the pain went away. It disappeared. I could not believe it because I was limping. I could barely do anything. And then all of a sudden I was back on the park playing with my kids. I was like, I've done it. Like, I'm better. I didn't continue doing that. And the pain just kept coming back and back. Before that, I was having to start cancelling like social outings. And normally I'm really physical. Like I was working my own business, homeschooling my children, going to the gym, just love being active, and things just had to stop. I had to slow down. My mental health, I was frustrated, but I've been doing a lot of work on my mental health prior to all of this. So I feel like I just wanted to know. I was like, what is this telling me? What am I doing that needs to change? Or, I kept asking questions and looking for ways to try and heal. I went back to my regular GP and I went to her and I walked in. She's like, "This is not you. I've been seeing her since my son was a baby and he was 6 at the time." She's like, "This is not you. You're like a fit mum." I actually did a meditation journey, and that was at a property with my husband. And in that, I was shown that I had cancer down my left side. Everything was white, grey, and my hair, it was long like this and it was falling out as I was pulling it. But in that same meditation, so this left side was all grey, but this side was healthy, and I had this little message up here saying, "It's not your time." I came out of that meditation, whilst it was obviously shock, or was it a shock? I guess overwhelming, but it was like, okay, now I know what to go and ask for. And also, whatever it is, I'm okay. I've been told that I'm going to be okay. It was a bit like, oh, do I listen to that little message over there? Like, can I trust that? But I had to, because what else did I have to hold on to? Then I went and had all the further testing, admitted to hospital to go and have all the testing. That was a really scary experience. I walked into a blood cancer ward. Never been anywhere like that before. The first door I walked into was everyone lined up with drips in their arms. Like, I'm not supposed to be here. This is not for me. I stayed there for 2 nights and they did all the scans. They still couldn't work out it was, so they ended up doing a biopsy in my hip. Then I think I had an appointment with an oncologist a couple of weeks later, and they told me it was stage 4 incurable. I asked them not to give me a prognosis. I said, I don't want to focus on that. But obviously I was in shock. I had 2 young children. My son was 5, my daughter was 7. I just didn't focus on that. I said, I don't want to know. That's not helpful for me. I'm just going home to heal. And that's what I always focused on. Thankfully, my GP is amazing. She doesn't hold back on getting tests if she thinks we need it. She's sort of one of those rare GPs who she really knows who you are. She takes the time to get to know you and your family, and she never forgets anything. She's known my history, so she was like, this is not right. To this day, she apologizes, and it's not her fault, but she's like, I'm so sorry because it took so long to find out. The day before New Year's Eve, they phoned me and said, unfortunately, it's not what we were hoping. We thought it was multiple myeloma, but it's metastatic melanoma, which has spread to your bones. I knew it as a skin cancer because my neighbour had just 6 months before had skin cancers cut out of his head. But I didn't know about the metastasizing. The thing with mine is there was no primary location. I did not have a skin spot that spread. They did all the checks on my body. They don't know where it came from. Another interesting thing is my neighbour had skin cancer. He's 50-something at the time, spent a lot of time outside, has a bald head. That's something you could understand as being, okay, that could be from the sun. The neighbour next door to him, she was diagnosed with bowel cancer 2 years, in 2020, and she actually passed away in 2022. So there's 3 of us living in this location with cancer, and I had to get out of there. To me, there's something, this is not just a coincidence to me. I was thinking, how did this happen to me? I'm 37 at the time. I couldn't ask them any questions because they just didn't know. They didn't want to look into it. You know, they're too busy. They don't have time to research. Why did this happen to this young, seemingly healthy woman? After I had the in-person appointment with the oncologist, they wanted me to start treatment on the Monday after. So I think I had an appointment with them on Friday. I said, I'm not ready yet. I need to go home and sit with this. And they wanted me to start immunotherapy. And because my neighbour had just passed away the year before and she'd been on chemo, and my dad passed away from cancer, my husband's dad, I know other people, and I just see them as they just got sick and passed away. So that was very scary for me, scarier probably than the cancer, you know. And I just said, I'm not ready. In my life, I try and do everything natural before I go to pharmaceuticals. I didn't do anything for a while. I started a plant-based diet. I started seeing a naturopath who specializes in oncology. She had me on a few different supplements. And then it came to about 3 months after my diagnosis and I was in so much pain. I ended up in the hospital because I almost collapsed in the shower. My husband had to help me out. My spine was starting to collapse. So I ended up agreeing to radiation. They were doing 5 rounds to try and shrink it. Unfortunately, that didn't really work for me. In amongst this, we ended up moving from the city to the country. So everyone packed up our house for us and we moved up here. And when I got here within a week, I ended up in hospital again. I think it's just the stress of everything. Back before we moved, I had spinal surgery. So when I was about to collapse, they said, you need to be supported, otherwise you may end up in a wheelchair. And I could feel that. I couldn't even sit up in bed. I was in so much pain. The hardest thing has been losing my physical ability. So I was bedbound for about 18 months, if not longer. I was using crutches to get around. I could only go from my bed to the toilet. I would shower. I would just have I call it a cloth wash. My husband will bring a bucket of water and a cloth and I'd wash on the side of my bed. Occasionally I would have a shower. I remember my mother-in-law and my friends washing my hair for me. Like, I'm this proud, strong woman who used to always be the carer for everyone else, and all of a sudden I'm frail, relying on everyone to do everything for me. So that was really hard. And also not being there for my children, because that's all I ever wanted to do was be a mum. So when I was told that that could be taken away from me, that was the hardest thing. But also that's what drove me. That, and also myself. I wanted to get better for myself, seeing I couldn't abandon my babies. And then in the end, about 8 months after my diagnosis, I started immunotherapy. I did 6 rounds of immunotherapy. And after the fourth or fifth round, the cancer was gone. And I haven't had a recurrence since. It's been about 1.5 years since my first scan. It was clear. And I just had another one last week that was clear. So one thing I try to do is share my story in a way to give other people, they can see that there are other options, or that you actually can heal. I'm not saying everyone will. I don't know. I'm not a cancer doctor, but I'm just showing what I've done, because I hit rock bottom as I was 45 kilos, very frail. My hair was thinning, and that was even before treatment. And now I am moving again, and I've had multiple surgeries, and life is different for everyone. We all have different support networks. We're all at different stages of our mental health, what we're dealing with, who's healed what already. I always looked at whatever was happening to me as it was a lesson or it was a message. And in another medicine journey that I did, my intention was show me how to heal. What do I need to do? Not just physically, what is it? And I got the message that you need to love yourself. It was so clear. And I was just like, yeah, I'm hearing you, because I have been my own biggest bully for as long as I can remember, just so cruel the way I speak to myself internally, or the way I used to speak to myself. Always just felt like ugly and unlovable, and always tried to help others and impress others and make people like me by doing things for them. And once I realized that and started to focus on that, it was life-changing. And I think without what happened to me, I wouldn't have done that, because me being busy and doing things was a way of me like getting out of my head. So because I was stopped in my tracks and I couldn't move, what else did I have to do other than to sit with my thoughts? And whilst I knew it was going to be hard and confronting, I knew it's what I needed. So I believe this came to be like, come on, you're not living how you want. You're not actually happy. You're just trying to make others happy, but that's what you need. By doing that, I was able to start looking at what I was doing for other people and start giving it to myself, and also accepting it from other people instead of always being the carer. And that was hard at the start, but once I did and started to feel how good it was, I'm like, oh, I need to do more of this. So yeah, I just started showing up for myself and making decisions for myself rather than what I wanted, not what other people thought I should do or would tell me to do. And that's led me to living where I do now. I never would have spoke up and said, I don't want to live here anymore. I want to move somewhere more peaceful. I now believe that I'm worthy of whatever I want. So one thing I always think, I don't say to people I'm healed. I have healed from the cancer, but there's healing from the cancer, and then there's always healing. So I say I'm healing. So yeah, it's always a journey. Just hold on to hope. If you or a loved one is in this position, just hold on to it like your life depends on it, because there is hope.